Hello everybody, I'm Conquering History Games, and welcome back to part 2 of my Ordensstaat Burgund campaign here in Hearts of Iron 4, The New Order. So we are 1 hour into the game. Exactly 1 hour. It's 2 in the morning on January 1st, 1962. And we'll just go ahead and unpause and I think get to it. It's actually been 2 days since I did that first episode. Because that's just how my life is. Hopefully I can get like 1 or 2 episodes recorded today, and then tomorrow I think I have the day off, so I'm going to try to essentially knock out the whole series. Probably can't, but get a lot done. Let's just go to 5 speed, the hell with it. Let's start just slamming through some of this stuff here. Okay, the old general's adieu. General Karl Heinrich von Stuplengang stared out the window of his limousine, watching Paris shrink further and further into the distance. He had spent 20 years in the city, first as head of the German military occupation, then as the nebulously defined advisory position for the collaborator government. Either way, his job would remain the same: keep the Teutonic neck pressed on the Gaelic neck. Teutonic boot pressed on the Gaelic neck. It was a job that he had performed admirably, but it gnawed away at him over the decades. The orders he signed, the reprisal, killings against resistant members' hometown, the cattle cars full of people who would never return. There was much that he was willing to stomach for the sake of his fatherland, but sometimes it crossed the line. And there were other aspects of his duty that he carried out with pride. When the regime was reorganized and Himmler was appointed as his superior, Karl Heinrich tried his damnedest to keep the SS on a short leash, but everyone he trusted in the administration was suddenly demoted, arrested on suspicious charges, or suffered a tragic accident. His power in the Parisian bureaucracy waned, and he became little more than an informant. Hold on. Oh, goodness. Passing along Himmler's latest doings to Germania. Now he could no longer do even that. Truth be told, he would have been feeling relief that it was no longer... He should have been feeling relief that it was no longer his burden to stare into that abyss every day, but all he felt was terror at the thought of what they will do with no one watching. Dang it, I'm flubbing things up because my glasses are a little smeared right now. I squirted lime juice on them by accident. Anyway, a wise leader. The Reichsführer SS is dismissed by his political rivals as the craziest man in uniform, when in reality he is the last sane man in the Reich. You know what, this music is a pinch loud in my ears. I don't know how it's sounding for you guys, but I gotta bring that down. It's too much. It's too much. How could the people not realize that their leaders have abandoned National Socialism and there is no other man fit to take up the cause? Thankfully, the Reichsführer SS has not spent years fiddling while Germania burns. The time will soon come when all is well and order is restored to Europe. Excellent. Okay. Increase our monthly arms sales. Refocus the state, reduce supply consumption, required monthly supplies minus 1.0%. Okay. In important matters of state, presentation is everything. Something as major as a lavish award ceremony for a prominent general can have just as much of a political ramification as something as minor as the seating arrangements at a state dinner. And there's no exception when it comes to the humble framed photo. For 2 decades, official state portraits of the Führer have been ubiquitous, whether it was the young, dynamic firebrand of the 1930s or the gracefully aging conqueror of the early 1950s. Millions of blue eyes have loomed over the classrooms, offices, and sitting rooms of the Reich. And within the Ordensstaat's borders, they have always been accompanied by a smaller, more tasteful black and white photo portrait of the Reichsführer SS, a way to exalt himself while remaining courteous and aware of his subservience. But no longer. Over the weekend, every SS office in the Ordensstaat received a new portrait. It was a painting of the Reichsführer SS, in full regalia with a peaked cap and overcoat, in color no less. Clearly meant to mimic his Führer, it was the exact same size, and even more shockingly, was ordered to be hung at the exact same height as the portrait of Hitler. The members of the SS unflinchingly complied with this order, while the few dignitaries still representing the Reich in Paris quietly tutted the move. Word would surely make its way back to Germania, and the Führer would rave about how this is proof Himmler was plotting against him. What could be done about it? After all, who would risk a civil war over a few lithographs? The writing is on the wall. Oh, eeny, meeny, miny, who cares? Let's do a loyal army. Hitler's first mistake was in the creation of the Ordensstaat was allowing the Reichsführer SS to recruit as many of his followers as he pleased. To the degenerates twisting the Führer's ear, this seemed like the perfect idea. No more so-called fanatics marching past their homes, reminding them of the values they failed to uphold, threatening to end the decadent Xanadu they had built for themselves. However, it proved to be nothing but a boon for the fledgling Ordensstaat. A bureaucracy and gendarmerie, once filled with French collaborators of dubious loyalty, were replaced by legions of experienced, efficient, and above all dedicated men. They know how to run a state. slaughter partisans, and fight in the harshest conditions, and the day may soon come where they fight again. Alright. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to do any of this decision stuff until we at least have our new focus tree, so we can kind of get a better idea of what exactly is going on here. Initiation. The drums beat in the darkness as the SS cadets marched onto the parade ground. Whoops! Their only light being the torches surrounding the perimeter. There was an electricity in the air, and every one of them could feel it. This was the culmination of their training, the moment they had been waiting for. The moment when there would no longer be boys under the tutelage of the Reich, but men of the Waffen-SS. So this is the army branch, or the military branch, I guess we should say, of the SS. A bugle call ran out, and a brass band played SS Marschenritt in Friedensland, as flags bearing swastikas, sig runes, black suns, and all sorts of Aryan symbols were carried onto the stage. When that was done, the moment they were all waiting for began. They crisply raised their right hands into salutes and recited the words they had spent weeks memorizing. I swear to God this holy oath that I shall be eternally obedient to the guide and savior of the Aryan race, Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, and that at all times I will gladly give my life in the name of blood, race, and fatherland. Their oath complete, the band struck up once again, playing the Horstweisslied this time. It could hardly be seen in the dim, flickering light, but every single soldier on the parade ground was grinning from ear to ear. Mein Ehre heißt Triol. My German is not very fresh, so I'm not sure what that was. I probably should look it up. The Aryan race is teetering on the brink of catastrophe. The Großdeutschen Reich, their ancestral and spiritual home, is rife with decadence and corruption. They believe that their status as the master race, rather than giving them the duty to be industrialists, instead exempts them from all labor. They lounge about in palatial in palatial mansions, letting their minds rot and their bodies grow soft. Those in the Ordensstaat, however, shall not succumb to such degeneracy. They understand the value of work, the importance of ideology, and above all, duty to their people. Alright. What does that mean? Let's find out. From cradle to grave. Hilda lay in the hospital bed, trying her best to regain her strength. Even though it was her third child, the pain of labor never got any less difficult. But the worst was behind her, and soon she would bring her little bundle of joy home with her. She and her husband were split between naming the boy, they knew that much, Lars or Siegfried. They ultimately decided they would wait to see him and choose which one they felt was suitable then. The nurse walked in carrying a clipboard. Frau Hilda Müller, please fill this out, she rudely recited as she thrust the clipboard into Hilda's lap. Hilda picked up the clipboard and looked at the paper on top. Notice of death! Your boy had visible signs of Mongolism and was euthanized per the law for the prevention of genetically diseased offspring of 1933. We need a name for the forms. Hilda was being overwhelmed by emotions, but she was able to hold back tears long enough to choke out. Of course, all for our race. She picked up the pen and shakily scrawled Lars in for the name of the deceased because she didn't know if she could stay composed long enough to write all 9 letters of the name Siegfried. The nurse snatched back up the clipboard and strode out of the room, slamming the door behind her. Alone at last, Hilda could give in to her grief and sob undisturbed. One death is a tragedy, 1 million deaths are a statistic. Yeah, this was something. So those of you who don't know, I used to be a docent at the local El Paso Holocaust Museum and Study Center, which sometimes surprises me because people are like, "Why does El Paso have a Holocaust museum?" It's not very big. That's a whole story of. There's a whole story about how it got founded and stuff. But I would say it's a top 3, maybe even 2 museum in the city. Anyway, so I remember that was something that we used to talk about, is how, it was, you had the euthanasia programs and stuff, that was kind of the foreshadowing, so to speak, of what would later be done to the Jews. And it doesn't really get talked about as much in the schools. Anyway. The fun's beginning, huh? Yes. Let the horror show commence. I keep saying that word, horror show. Alright, the last hope for Germania. In effeminate liberal democracies, the idea of government overthrow is treated as a weapon of last resort. Those who salivate at the thought of defending their so-called, it's probably supposed to say salivate, their so-called rights from tyranny only insist that they will act when so many laws are violated, or so many parties are banned, or so many men are arrested. It is a cover for their weakness, an excuse for them to say, not now, the time is not yet right, whenever someone asks them to show a backbone. However, the Aryan does not wait, however. The Aryan, however, does not wait. He sees the opportunity for power, and he seizes it with as much force as he can muster. He does not fear to tear down the rotten old structure and rebuild it in his image. He does not let betrayal or exile dampen his will. He marches in, pushes aside all who stand in his way, and rights what is wrong permanently. Okay. Probably should set up these guys here. A blade in the dark. Give me a second. Let's just assign these real quick. Okay, we got like 2 tank divisions here. We've got some Waffen SS, and the rest are Grenadiers, and we have some. Wow, they're actually called Einsatzgruppen. Are they the resistance? Is that who's in charge of our? No, it's the Panzer Grenadiers. Why wouldn't you have the Einsatzgruppen be the the Stachlich Police units be the anti-resistance fighters? Anyway. A blade in the dark. From the first day he settled into Ost Paris, the Reichswehr, which is... So that's interesting. I don't know if... Did I say this last episode? I might have just thought it, but not actually said it. But it's interesting to me how Paris has been split in half with a sign, and I wonder what's going on with that island in the middle. The Reichsführer SS spent his days mapping the long road that would lead him back to Germania, and the time had come for the journey to begin. It had taken months of planning. The task at hand was twofold. Not only did the Schickheindernstein have to smuggle a foreign national into Germania, but they also had to make sure he did so without resisting. The SD were experienced in planting spies, but usually those spies wanted to be there. Thankfully, SD agents had captured the poor sap's family, and a few recordings of their interrogation were enough to keep him compliant. He went over with nothing but some forged credentials, a Nambu pistol, and a cyanide pill. He had no pretenses of ever returning. His handlers had made it very clear if the next day's paper said anything other than the assassin was killed while being apprehended, then his wife and children would suffer a slow and excruciating end. It would have to happen during the moon landing, with the eyes of every man, woman, and child in the Reich, and every soldier, sentry, and officer would be glued to their television sets. And as the capsule hurtled toward the moon, so did destiny hurtle towards the Reich. The Burgenreich SS were on high alert. The Deutschen SS were silently preparing to mobilize, and the secondary waves of murders were planned. Everything was coming together, and now all the Reichsführer SS could do was wait to see it unfold the next day. He slept and dreamed of triumph. So we're going to try to assassinate Hitler during, and presumably some of the supporting staff, during the moon landing. Interesting. Very interesting. So we're going to wait for something to happen. Assassin strikes at Hitler! News from Germany is sporadic at best. Information smuggled out of Germania reports that shortly after celebrations over the moon landing settled, military units and several platoons worth of bodyguard units filled the streets and immediately put the city under martial law. Apparently an assassin, which the Germans claim belonged to the Japanese Ken Patai, attempted to kill the Führer, but was stopped in his attempt by one of Hitler's personal bodyguards. Already reports of various other assassinations have surfaced. In the streets, the various military units nearly came to blows. Several units ordered each other to stand down, and the chain of command fell apart. Suddenly, the Reich seems much weaker. Can the Germans maintain their new world order when they can hardly handle themselves? Interesting. So I don't think I knew this, or maybe somebody once spoiled it for me in chat, but I always thought it was the Japanese who did it, but now we know it was the Burgundians. Now the question is, are the Germans covering it up and lying and saying, oh, it was a Japanese guy, or somebody hired by them, or do they know, like, do they actually think that, or do they know that Burgundy was behind it, but they don't want to reveal that Himmler was making a play? Der Feldschlag. The Reichsführer SS at his desk, giddy with excitement. He had uncharacteristically taken a shot of schnapps to help settle his nerves, but he dared not take another one. He did not want to miss a moment of it. The doors flew open and a small cadre of clearly flustered officers burst in with newspapers in their hand. My Reichsführer! He eagerly snatched a copy of the Volkischer Beobachter from their hands, turning to the front page. It was dominated by a black and white portrait of the wizened Führer and a portrait of the Volksschale, its entrances cordoned off by Wehrmacht as paramedics ran inside. In bold block letters, it read, "Attempt on the Führer's life." Wait, attempt? The assassin failed, the officer gasped. Hitler still lives! The Reichsführer SS's body froze and time seemed to stand still. No, 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 no! Not after all this. Not during what was supposed to be his hour of triumph! His shock was soon replaced by a churning, fiery cauldron of rage, which violently exploded in a tirade of legendary proportions. Himmler cursed the inept assassins, the Japanese race, the ever-menacing Jews, the decrepit Führer, his damnable personal guard, and every god he could name. When his rant ended, he slumped back into his chair, his energy spent. For the first time in years, Himmler felt hopelessly and utterly lost. What to do? What to do? Well, now it looks like we get a new tree. A change in plan. Something's gone wrong. Not only did Hitler still breathe, but he's also painfully aware of his own mortality. Someone will soon receive his blessing as the official successor to the office of Führer and will undoubtedly have his supporters in the government and the Wehrmacht on high alert if the Reichsführer SS attempts to assert his power again. The route to regaining power over such a broken Reich must be recalculated. It may take longer than initially anticipated, but it shall be ironclad and leave nothing to chance. Time to call a meeting. So we're going to adjust to some new goals, which will give us even more daily political power gain, but we're going to lose a bit of stability and war support. Well, goodness, well, we're getting almost a whole point a day, and that's with a lot of negative stuff. Like we allow slavery, we don't have health care. A lot of those things hurt us politically. Oh! We could get ourselves an operative here. I guess let's build an intel network in Germania. Okay, apparently we can't do that. Oh, can't target an ally. Fine, we'll do it in Paris. Wait, what? Oh, yeah, that's right. French state is in their unity pact. Well, shoot. I guess this guy's just not gonna not do anything for right now. Getting our fuel levels up. Okay, so we've got this change of plans here. Oh wait, Hitler names Göring his successor. I don't think I've ever seen him do this. Following the recent attempt on the German Führer's life by a suspected Piatai agent, the pressure upon the Führer to name an official successor and for the Reichstag to formally recognize the choice has been steadily building. After almost a week of debate and speculation, Adolf Hitler today appeared on live television from the Reichstag and announced to the world that his successor would be Hermann Göring. One of Hitler's oldest allies and beloved uncle of the nation, Göring enjoys extensive support from the Nazi Old Guard and the Wehrmacht, a relationship which has caused many to reject the decision. Albert Speer, Martin Bormann, and Reinhard Heydrich have all criticized the nomination, vowing to never allow the Reich to fall into the hands of a glory-lusting warmonger. Is war on the horizon? Okay. Let's see. Wallon is questionable. I'm gonna need to hop on the Discord and talk to somebody who knows Burgundy about these global plans and such, and yeah. Okay. Let us expand Project Gallerhorn. Actually, do we want to do that? Okay, so this is going to help our nuclear stockpile increase for a year. Right now, we don't have one. We could pay a house call, admit no loyalty, drill the Waffen, security personnel, stimulate the nuclear program. Factory output. So this just seems like a lot of preparations, essentially. The nukes are going to cost me a bit of money, so we'll wait and do that later. Let's admit no loyalty. Or wait, what do I... Let's see, admit no fault. SS support will increase. We can increase construction speed at the cost of skilled workers. Factory output stuff. Await the Weinkrieg, stench of decadence. I guess this doesn't really matter as long as I just want to do this last. So whatever. Let's just admit no loyalty. Only a slave would be content in a system where strong servants obey weak masters. The Aryan race has thrown off their slave mentality. We won't take orders from Germania, nor shall we acknowledge the legitimacy of a simpering cronies vying for his throne. The Reichsführer SS shall be our guiding light, and we shall scorn those who prefer to huddle beneath the shadows of lesser men. Okay. So we'll just, knock these out, then knock these out, then we'll go right up the middle. Seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, after this episode, I'm going to need to go talk to somebody. I want to make sure that I'm doing... like, there's something to be said about going into these things blind, but I want to understand mechanically how they work before I do more. Oh, what's going on? Okay, yeah, there was a little... I saw the little clock go up for a second there, so I got worried. Counter-espionage. Yeah, keep working on the passive defense. Oh, can we become spy master? No, that's right. We need to have different branches covered. So I guess we'll do like modernizing the department and maybe industrial espionage or something. A simple examination. This is a new examination on National Socialism that all incoming officers are required to take. You have 30 minutes, pencils only, no talking, no leaving the room until the exam is complete. You may begin. The SS officer candidates all sat down and flipped open the booklets, hastily filling in circles or scribbling down answers. The questions range from mundane party history, when was Adolf Hitler appointed Chancellor of the Reich, to bizarrely personal, have you ever had sexual fantasies involving a family member? But they still answered just as diligently as ever. When the half hour had passed, the instructor stood up, collected the test, and stepped out of the room. The candidates mostly just sat and stared at each other silently, nonplussed and mildly confused about the test purpose. Been there, bro. The next morning, 3 of their fellow candidates had disappeared from the beds in their bunks. Their names had been stricken from the roll call, and their personal effects had all been removed from their lockers. Nobody felt the desire to ask what happened to them because deep down, they already knew. Whether it was because of something they had said on the test or the SD having had eyes on them for some time, didn't matter. There was no point dwelling on the fate of dead men. Describe what comes to mind when you hear the word fatherland. Is it a warm, hugging embrace? Is it a chill, stern father? Prepare for my awful accents for the rest of this series. Drills of often. Oh, I can't do that until I come over here. Ah, okay. So then we'll have to go like boom, 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 boom. Let us admit no fault. There are those who, if they knew the truth of the assassination attempt, would use it to defame the Reichsführer SS as a cowardly weakling professing a failed ideology. There could be no further from the truth. The Reichsführer SS fully understands the meaning of National Socialism, and the so-called ideologues in Germania continue to vomit out degenerate lies in place of sound theory. There is no such thing as a flaw in Nazism. Only a flaw in the race implementing it, and the Aryan race has many flaws that must be expunged. You know, when you get right down to it, this is all just the no true Scotsman fallacy being just cranked up. What's going on in Russia these days? What's going on in Komi? Actually, we're still pretty early. Nothing's going on in Komi. Place your bets. Place your bets on what path it's going to go down. I hope that everybody liked my Democratic campaign there. We'll definitely visit Komi at least 2 more times, possibly 3. Yeah, lots going on in there. What do we want to do here? Yeah, I know. Yeah, we'll just wait on all this stuff. And in America, well, Nixon's going to still be in power for a little bit. He's doing his South African plan. Who else could we check on in the world? Sablin is still alive against Irkutsk. I don't think I've ever seen him beat him, though, so we'll see how that goes. Paying a house call. The officer rapped on the door 3 times with usual military precision, waiting patiently for someone to answer it, but nobody did. They were smart enough to figure that a van outside their house and a large group of uniformed men knocking at their doors was bad news. The officer waited patiently for a few more moments before drawing his pistol and kicking the door in. He and his fellow Gestapo officers then began clearing the house room by room. The drawing room and dining room were clear, kitchen was too, though it seemed like someone had thoroughly burnt a small pile of papers in the sink. As they proceeded up the stairs to the 2nd floor, they heard several gunshots echo throughout the hallway. The officers took cover, emerging when the firing stopped. They arrived at the master bedroom and found their target, an SS captain accused of Francophilia after objecting to the labor conditions in the Nordkeilen mines. He and his wife both lay in the corner of the room, holes in their heads and a vault on the floor. Murder-suicide, likely to avoid being captured. The officer sighed, disappointed that he would not be spending the rest of the night extracting valuable intelligence from the now-dead man. Instead, he would have to sort through paperwork and deal with his boss. One less degenerate walking among the Aryans, though. Some problems have a way of solving themselves. Alright. Let's call upon the butcher. Reinhard Heydrich is a loyal and capable servant of the Reichsführer SS, so skilled that he was personally entrusted with managing the Deutschen SS after the Ordensstaat's establishment. His record is not spotless. He was unable to capture Hitler during the Reichsführer SS's coup. A failure some speculate was intentional. However, it did provide a good silver lining and got him in the Führer's good graces. With Hitler's always eager to listen... What? And the entire Deutschen SS at his back, Heinrich had become one of the most formidable candidates for the Führership. And the Reichsführer SS's vision would be so much easier to achieve were he to succeed. Alright. Wait, I was going to take something else. So we did that in the... Oh, right, yeah. Intelligence agencies. Okay, let's work on some other stuff here or something. We don't have enough civilian factories here. We need 8 in order to work on this. Fine, let's do like the economy department or something. Ming Jian has declared war on the People's Revolutionary Council. This is up here, some Mongolia stuff. Or wait, no, this is separate. Oh, what? This is interesting. And I don't think that's going to go well. The People's Revolutionary Council. This is one of the Russian warlords, isn't it? And now they're at war with the entirety of the Daito Kyogen. Can they possibly win? They can't. Can they force a ceasefire or something? Is this? I don't think I've heard of this. I think I'd heard that Amur could get involved with the Japanese, fighting that faction, and that's how it's one of the ways that you can get the maximum size Russia, because it's one of those things that you can never fully control it. So, like, let's say you're somebody who's starting in eastern Siberia, you're not going to be able to attack Finland over Onega. You have to hope that whoever was in the west did that themselves if you wanted to kind of go full breadth of Russia. Let's see here. Do we need the anti-tank, or should we do something else? Improve the motorized equipment. Might not be the worst idea in the world. No factories. Alright. A simple letter. Heydrich, the Reichsführer SS has high hopes for you. The turmoil in the Reich is reaching its crescendo, and it's very likely that with the increase... sorry, getting all tongue-twisted. With the recent assassination attempt on our dear Führer's life, combined with rumors of his declining health, he will likely choose an heir to continue to carry the torch, so to speak, in his stead. You have done well in winning the Führer's trust and favor. We are pleased you are held in such high standing. We have heard rumor that the Führer has mentioned you by name as a potential candidate, which is fantastic for our cause. Continue to win his favor, and continue to foster the organization in Germany proper for the conflict to come. Heydrich, this is a great opportunity to redeem yourself in the eyes of the Reichsführer SS. Your underwhelming performance in the past will be overlooked if your plans in Germany succeed. It is vital for both the state and you that you succeed in your task. It should not need to be said what will occur if you let us down again. The Ordensstaat has no place for failures, Heydrich. Expand the camps. A powerful man cannot climb his way to the top without making many, many enemies. There are rivals within the bureaucracy constantly conniving to further their own ends at the expense of the Volk. There are dissenters... I'm guessing you guys know what Volk is, by the way. I've been using it a lot. There are dissenters and rumor mongers preferring to spread lies that denounce the truths of National Socialism. There are also spies and saboteurs undermining the Aryan race at every turn to aid their Semitic masters. These vermin, like any other, shall be tracked down and caught, and that means we will need more places to put them all. Preliminary locations of the Alps are being scouted, and due to their proximity to new construction sites and the harshness of their climate as a deterrent for escape. That's like that place in, I think it's Tennessee, where they got Martin Luther King Jr.'s killer. The guy escaped, and I think he was out of jail for like 5 days, and they found him like 8 miles from the prison, because it's just in the middle of this mountainous forested area. And so when they found him several days later, he had only gone like 8 miles and was about to die of exposure. So it's its own the terrain and the climate is the own, like, it's like practically the only escape measure, anti-escape measure you need. Yeah. And then there was a guy who lived in that area who heard about it. He said, like, how far did you get in that many days? I would have run 100 miles by then. And that's what inspired him. He had the idea to create the Barkley Marathon, which is like this ultra marathon where it's not actually set in stone how long the path is, but it's somewhere between 100 and 125 mile race, where it's just one of those things that it's amazing if you can even finish it. Very few people do, and there will be like technically a winner, but it's a tough one. It's a little crazy. Let's see here. We've got some changes going on in some of these areas. I don't like that. Charlemagne loyalty is boosting. Yeah, I don't like that at all. But we're gonna stop it there. So what I'm gonna do before I record again, I'm going to try to, in a non-spoiler way, figure out exactly how this mechanic works from somebody who knows better than me. And so then we can start doing this stuff, because right now I'm a little bit hesitant to get into it. We've been saving up political power, though, so we could easily catch up with whatever it is we want to do. And we're going to start being able to get skilled workers, and then over here, wait, no, where is it? Yeah, right here we could do things to boost our security personnel effectiveness, so don't worry. Anyway, everybody, I'm Conquering History Games. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you next time.